LOTUS is currently the most attack-sided map in Valorant, sitting at about 54% win rate for both pro games and ranked. Then how did G2 only win 2 out of their 9 attacker side rounds before losing their first playoff series to Oxygen Esports? Let's take a closer look at how G2 fumbled their attack side on LOTUS. The game is tied 6-6 at the half when G2 swapped to offense. G2 start the half with a C execute by methodically taking mound control and popping onto site when there is clearly little resistance. Oxygen decide to play retake on the site and are positioned to fast retake, having saved most of their utility. G2 realize that they aren't in a comfortable spot to just plant and play the post plant. Shahzam calls a great play to blind and push into Link, and it gets them first blood on Breach. If G2 decide to back off here, they are in an amazing position. Not only do they have a player advantage, they killed Oxygen's primary retake utility on the Breach. They still have access to the C site, and still have a lurk play from Viper for post plant. Instead, they overpush, lose the fights, and throw the round. Now there is no way to plant the bomb without taking another fight, and they're already down 2v3. G2 were smart enough to take a fight as they didn't have enough control to plant and play post comfortably, but were not disciplined enough to capitalize on their advantage. So G2 lose their eco, then win against Oxygen's bonus. In the first fair rifle round, G2 walk up A main and C main in a 2-3 split. They are allowed to freely take control of both sides without resistance. When both areas are secured, G2 decide to send one back to A so they can execute. It's crazy how much control is given to G2 in this round. Oxygen are essentially just holding pushes into their spawn, while their initiators rotate back and forth with very limited information. A turret on B gets information for a lurker, but there is no one there to contest it if G2 decides to walk in anyway. When Dapper on Killjoy is allowed to walk up C all by himself, he gets a bit antsy to do something since his team is about to execute A, but unfortunately gets caught by Omen still holding from C Hall. G2 has no play on the other side of the map now and take A immediately. The execute actually works pretty well, and they trade 2 for 2 but aren't able to win the 3v2 retake against 2 initiators who are still alive. This round definitely felt uncomfortable for G2, as it's really unconventional to give up so much control on LOTUS. This made Dapper think he could make a play before his team executed A, but it's clear Oxygen have some read on G2's over-aggression, as that's exactly how they also threw the pistol round. We can imagine if Killjoy had played the late lurk, G2 would have a 3v3 post plant and a strong flank play to close out the round. Obviously, this is a dilemma lurkers have all the time. It's a delicate balancing act between the strong side and the lurker on the weak side. In this case, Oxygen had no information and did not even know there were 4 A side, so there wasn't enough pressure for Dapper to make something happen by himself. Ignorance was bliss for Oxygen in this round. G2 lose their eco attempting a C rush and play their second gun round down 7-10. This round they attempt a similar 3-2 split, but with the strong side at C mound instead of A main. This time some utility is traded at mound before G2 take control of it. The weak side at A main makes their presence known a bit by opening the door and shooting a couple shots, but Oxygen doesn't really bite and are very comfortable playing the KJ setup on site. While G2 are split 3-2, they decide to jump onto C with Raze ult and get counter-ulted by Breach. G2 decide to rotate fast into B through the door, but get caught by Sova playing behind the box, and he bought just enough time for the rest of Oxygen to rotate back to B and win the round. Now a whole bunch of things went wrong with this round, so let's get into the details. G2 haven't noticed that Oxygen aren't biting hard on anything. Oxygen are willing to collect some information and trade utility, but at the end of the day they're completely comfortable playing retake. G2 don't seem like they're on the same page, as both A main players are inactive when the C mount players decide to execute C. There really wasn't any significant pressure from G2's A main players before they suddenly decided to raise ult onto C. Omen was actually the only player on site the entire time, and he's only interested in getting out alive. Penny has Sky Heal for Oxy, but doesn't even use it before they run into the door. This is the only reason Verno got a multi-kill here, because it only took one body shot to kill Raze running through the door. He definitely would have gotten traded before killing Raze if Raze had 100 HP. Dapper lurks up B and doesn't really spray the box or make his presence known to pull Verno's attention. Although I don't personally like Oxygen's game plan, they are fully committed and comfortable with it. G2, on the other hand, aren't on the same page and are overthinking situations, causing their own downfall. G2 lose another eco and play another gun round at match point, down 7-12. Again, they go to the 2-3 split that we saw from their first gun round. After taking mount control with no resistance, they group as 5 at A, take door control, and KJ ult to secure the site. G2 secure this round, playing around the Viper ult in the post plan. Finally, G2 actually committed to the site together and won the round. The prior rounds that looked remotely close were all rounds they decided to actually commit to taking the site they were set up for taking. The rounds that looked the worst were rounds where they were disjointed across the map and attempted to out-rotate Oxygen, but ended up out-rotating themselves. Now down 8-12, G2 do their 2-3 split that we saw from the last round, but Oxygen finally decide to fight Mound hard with 3 members and deny Mound control from G2. The strength of the 2-3 split is that the weak side has help, so they aren't going to die by themselves, while the strong side still has the important utility to take control of site if they need to. It becomes obvious there are 3 members pushing Mound when Shahzam peeks and sees Omen. Breach Aftershock and Raze Nade comes in shortly after. When this is known, G2 should have immediately sped up to take A with their strong side, but they take it too slowly and completely lose the timing to take A. Oxygen are one step ahead and immediately rush to help their Killjoy on A. Sova ult actually picks off their strongest execute utility in Sky, which also denies the heal from Shahzam, who's 3 HP after the Mound fight. Although Oxygen are prepared for it, a relurk C from Dapper finds a 2-for-0 and the round seems winnable for G2. Shahzam only has 1 smoke up, so he decides to smoke water, but the plant spot is much more exposed to the peeks from defender's spawn. Verno is the one again to thwart G2's plans, and he peeks the open angle, killing Dapper and Shahzam planting the bomb. In hindsight, the smoke should have definitely been placed for the spawn side peeks, as Dapper can place an alarm bot to catch players pushing water, and they would have had the Viper wall for water once it recharged. This is another unfortunate mistake that prevents them from winning the round. G2 eventually get the plan on B by taking site with Raze ult, but aren't able to protect the bomb 2v3. Oxygen win the map and upset the series, sending G2 to the lower bracket in the first round of playoffs. This game was a really good lesson in decisiveness, and I personally think it has a lot to do with role comfort and team composition from G2. Shahzam is usually calling from an initiator role, while Penny is playing one of the space creators for the team. These factors caused them to feel shaky in their decision making, and mainly ended up outplaying themselves on offense, while Oxygen were comfortable with their largely passive game plan. Remember that decisiveness is always the key to any individual or team play working, so you should decisively subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment on where you think G2 went wrong, and as always, thanks for watching.